Hey friends, I am just sharing this awesome resource that you can get for free from Dr. Megan Anna Neff. I'm going to put the link for you to go to her website and get it for free. It's called Understanding Cross Neurotype Interactions NDI Visual Guide. I'll put the link. And it is like a boiled down version of a really great article that I will also put a link to in the description. Okay, so it's this idea that I love so much, especially because of my background in speech and hearing sciences, is called cross neurotype interactions. And what it's doing is the same thing that folks did when they took and sort of like untangled second language speakers as having a difference rather than a disorder. So that's something that the speech and hearing sciences community already sort of have like introduced the concept. There's still a lot of folks that are diagnosing second language learners as having language disorders, which is not ethical. But anyways, it's applying that to neurotypes. So inviting in that the social communication of neurodiverse individuals is not a disorder. It's a difference. So, in the same way that we would look at, like, if someone who spoke Russian was speaking with someone who spoke Thai, and they had a communication breakdown, it would not be because either of them were disordered, is because they are using different language sets. We can now invite in that if an autistic person and a non-autistic person or allistic person are communicating and have a communication breakdown, it's not because the autistic person had a communication disorder. It's because they're using different communication styles, or it's similar. It's a different thing than language, but it is a similar framework. Okay, so she cites two studies in this article. Um, this is just sort of what I just went over. The double empathy problem, that it's not a deficit but a difference, that was presented by Dr. Damian Milton, saying that misunderstandings arise between neurotypes, much like cross-cultural interactions, not a flaw in the autistic or neurodivergent person. Okay, so we're going to look at study one by Dr. Crompton from 2020, called Telephone Game. Okay, so they took a group of allistic and allistic people, so all people who are not autistic, put them together in a group and had them play that game telephone, where you whisper like a little message and then you pass it down the row. And by the end, you're seeing if the message stayed intact or if it got all jumbled up as it was passed along. So with the allistic to allistic people, they got the message pretty clear. With the autistic to autistic people, also got the message pretty clear, which would not be possible if all of these people had disordered communication. But then they mixed them up, autistic and autistic people together, and the message was all jumbled up. It didn't stay as clear for as long. So what does that tell us, right? That there's just two different types of communication happening. The breakdown is not the fault of either one, but it's just the fact that they're not like syncing up. Okay. So, just said that. The second one is called neurotype matching. So this is when they put groups together to do some different tasks, and they paired up 12 groups where it was autistic, autistic, 12 groups with allistic, allistic, and then 12 mixed groups, so autistic and allistic working together. And then they had two measures to show sort of like how did that go in terms of a felt sense of connection between you and your partner. So they had self rating and then they had other rating. So on self rating reports, the allistic, so same neurotype pairs, and the autistic, same neurotype pairings, both had pretty high levels of self-reported feeling of connection with their partner. And then in the mixed neurotype pairing, so they had an autistic and an allistic person paired together, there was much lower reported felt a sense of connection. And that's by their own self-reflection on the experience. So, you would expect that the autistic, if we are seeing communication as disordered, you would expect that the autistic and autistic pairing would be the lowest. But again, we see that's not the case, right? And then the part that is the most interesting to me about this study is that they then had someone or people watch these groups interact, right? And they were not told what the neurotype the people were. So they were not told about the pairings. They just said, watch these two people interact and tell us if you think they're having a good connection. How great is their connection? Um, so it was such an interesting result. The connection of the, again, same neurotype pairings, so the allistic, and autistic pairings were observed to have the strongest connection by observers who had no idea what the neurotype was of these folks. And then the mixed neurotypes were perceived, again, by these observers who didn't know what was going on as having the lowest connection of the group. And what I love about this one is that the autistic pairings were seen to have the highest level of connection. And this is so great because any autistic person will tell you that when they get with another autistic person, they can have a blast. Like our levels of joy, I think, are actually higher than the allistic world experiences because I think one, it's like so fun to because there's kind of a scarcity of opportunity for a lot of us. But also I think there are like really high levels of enjoyment that are possible, like less limitations in that area than with the holistic world. There's an enthusiasm that is really accessible. So yeah, so if for those who think that autistic people have like a social disorder, this very much flies in the face of that. So anyway, some nice key takeaways. So instead of viewing through a deficit or disorder framework, we can approach cross neurotype interactions as we would cross cultural interactions, like hey, or cross lingual interactions. Um, when teaching autistic children social skills, it's important to clarify that they are learning holistic social skills. And I would take number two even farther. And I would say, when teaching autistic children social skills, that we teach both holistic and autistic social skills alongside each other. And that we invite in, like, here are a variety of social skills, and that we actually teach the cross neurotype concept to autistic kids as we would to kids who are experiencing a language difference or a cultural difference. Um, sort of like we might say to a kid, like, hey, this sign in some cultures means peace, and in other cultures means the middle finger. So if someone responds to you and is shocked, that might be why, right? So we could teach both the holistic and the autistic social skills and share with them that neither is the right way to communicate. We just all have, we have different ways to communicate. And then supporting autistic people and embracing our natural communication styles and rhythms is key for fostering deep and meaningful connections. So this helps with the unmasking, but I would say that, for number three, I would add that we also teach holistic people about autistic social communication and invite them to bring in some cultural humility and sensitivity and adapt to our communication styles as well. Okay, so check out Rethinking Autistic Communication, the full article. I'll put that in the description. Everything she does is really great. I'm a huge fan of hers. So check it out. And she gives tons of resources away for free. Okay, lots of love.